Okay, so we're going to start by watching this video of big leaguers talk about the pitching delivery from the side view. Then we're going to let you guys watch your videos with your side view and front view synced up together. I'm not going to talk while you're watching that video. It's just going to be your chance to watch yourself pitch. Then we're going to get the the three of you guys side views up just like this, and we're going to add a fourth video, and that'll be another big leaguer, and we will talk about the things that we're noticing from your guys' videos from the side view compared to what we're going to learn here with these guys. All right, so what we're going to be discussing here is the body's position that we get to the moment our front foot gets into the ground for the very first time. And this moment in time is called our foot strike. So we are going to be talking about the moment when, boom, those feet get into the ground for the very first time. And again, that's called our foot strike position. At foot strike, we want to be looking at our body in two halves. Our upper half and our lower half. At foot strike, we want our lower half to have rotated forward towards our target. And a useful thing to look at to know if we've been able to do that is the belt buckle. And is that belt buckle facing the target? If the belt buckle is facing the target, it's a pretty good chance that we have successfully rotated both the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip. When we're able to rotate the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip, as our front foot is getting into that foot strike position, we will successfully be able to get our belt buckle driving towards the target. If we specifically take a look at just the back foot of these four guys, let's watch as they are rotating that back leg, how that back foot is rotating. At this point in time, all four guys still have their entire foot flat onto the ground, and then they begin to rotate through or over top of their big toe. Their foot kind of rolls, folds over, or drives forward. And as the foot does that motion, we now shift our view to the back knee and know as the foot is rolling over the big toe that the back knee is also rotating forward. And how those two things, the back foot and the back knee, are working together. We can also see that as we go to drive and rotate that back foot and back knee, how they do that while they gain ground down the mound and towards their catcher. So this is the difference between rotating our bodies forward, or a word for that is driving ourselves forward, versus just rotating in place. If we were just rotating in place, our bodies would not be able to gain this ground down the mound. Our bodies wouldn't be able to accelerate our power and energy down the mound. And we can then look and see that the foot has the toe, and then the heel is in front of the toe, meaning we have rotated forward. We then go to the upper body, the upper halves, from the waist up, and we want to separate that upper body from the lower body. We want the direction that our hips are facing, which is to the target, to be separate from the direction our shoulders are facing. So we notice we can see the Giants, the Pirates, and his number. We can see the Phillies, and we can see the Brewers or Milwaukee. I'm not sure what they have displayed on their jerseys there. So the direction of their lower bodies is to the target, and the direction of their shoulders is still facing, for these right-handers, towards third base, or the direction they have been the entire time. So we rotate the lower body first, then we get into foot strike, then we rotate our upper body second. And the more that we can get those lower bodies to fully rotate to the target by the time that front foot hits the ground, and we've also been able to keep that upper body from rotating and staying back, we will have created as much upper lower half separation or hip shoulder separation as possible. And the more hip shoulder separation or upper lower half separation we can create, the more power we're going to be able to produce, and the amount of stress that's put on our arm is going to be reduced. What we're also going to notice is that almost regardless of your arm slot, if we have a true 3/4, low 3/4, high 3/4, an over-the-top arm slot, or anything in between those, we're always going to find ourselves in a relatively 90 degree angle, meaning from our elbow across to our other shoulder, we want to think is nice and even. 90 degrees in that armpit. We also want to think 90 degrees in that elbow. We want this type of arm position, that 90-90, we'll call it, at the moment of foot strike. When our arm has loaded up to this position here, at the moment of foot strike, and the upper body has not rotated yet, our body's rotation will accelerate the throw forward. If the arm is not in this 90-90 position, the body's rotation forward is going to be less than ideal and in sync with how the arm will flow after the body goes. So we're looking for this 90-90-ish position in that throwing arm at foot strike. What we can also notice at foot strike is, where is this glove at? It's in front of the body by the rib cage. We're not letting it, if we're thinking here's some water, don't drown the glove. Don't let your glove get wet. Don't drown that glove. This one right here is a little too high. Should be more towards the belt. Okay. When the glove gets finished into the body like this, it's able to help keep this front shoulder in line, meaning it's not going to open up early. Because if that front shoulder starts to open up early, that's going to start to pull the back shoulder forward early. And now we would not have separated our upper and lower halves as much, because the angle of the shoulders would begin to rotate forward, which would be more matching the angle of the hips. The final thing we're going to look at is this front leg. We see all these guys have different degrees of bend in their front legs. But what we're going to notice is that as the upper body now rotates to throw, we need to make our front leg become a firm fixture of which we can rotate around. So thinking about this front leg here turning into a flagpole. My flagpole is always going to be strongest if it's straight. Or at least I can't have my flagpole move forward while my body is trying to rotate forward. So we'll redraw these little outlines here, and we will have these guys. Oh man, that's all right. It's going to get back to it anyway. Boom. And now we'll watch as they go to throw. How that leg is locking out, stiffening up, straightening out. So that now that leg is here, now that leg is here, now that leg is here and here. From the bend, straightening it out. And what we can notice is as that leg locks out, stiffens up, straightens out, becomes that firm flagpole, notice how that upper body is able to catapult itself out in front and down more. Able to get out in front more. Out in front more. So that way, if we look, we can't get everyone exactly at release, but ball just out, ball just out, ball is coming out, ball is slightly a little bit more out than the bottom too. But we're able to look at this angle of the chin to the waist, back out to the front foot, boom, boom, boom. Just how out in front of themselves they're getting. And that's because of that front leg's ability to lock out. So we can see that they're starting, boom, boom, there, and there. So now it's not just the arm throwing the ball down, it's the body throwing the ball down. It's the body going down with the throw, body accelerating down. And as the body's accelerating down, the lower half is firming up. So that way, as I need to finish all this violent rotation, I have the ability to do that around that firm front leg. I have that ability to rotate around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my back leg around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my hips around. I can finish all that violent rotation out of my back shoulder around, giving my arm plenty of time to slow down and giving the back muscles, my scapular muscles, all the time they need to activate and slow down that rapidly accelerating arm. All right, now that we've learned the pitching delivery from that side point of view with those four big leaguers, here are your guys' individual videos synced up from the front and the side, so you can see what everything looks like together, but most specifically, we're just kind of focusing on the side view right now. All right, so now that you guys have been able to watch the big league video talking about the pitch and delivery from the side point of view, and then have been able to watch your video from the side points of view, we will now get into comparing and contrasting the three of you guys with another big leaguer for you guys to be able to have a more in-depth idea of where we need to make our changes in our delivery. So we're going to let this roll. We got everyone's delivery synced up so that way when the front foot hits the ground, everyone's at the same point in time. Okay? So here we are at that moment of our foot getting into the ground or our foot strike position. Like we talked about with the big leaguers before, we're looking for that throwing arm to be in a 90 degree angle with our elbow and armpit, and we can see that we're doing a good job of that here and here and there. We're a little big here, but most of that is an illusion because of how much your front shoulder is opening up. That will be discussed more in depth from the front view. What we also want to look at is, are we able to keep our chest in the same position it always has been, or have we been able to keep our chest from rotating? And what we can see is the chest has begun to rotate over here, and like we were just discussing just a moment ago, the chest has begun to rotate over here as well. It started to a little bit here early, but we can see you're really fighting to try it to not happen. And then we can see over here just how much different that looks when the shoulders aren't rotated at all. Right? That arm is still loaded up behind him, whereas this arm's already coming through, this arm's already coming through, and this arm has just started to come through. And what we're going to notice as we proceed this video out of this moment of foot strike is that our big leaguer down here, as he starts to rotate those shoulders forward, see how that arm is still behind him? Your arm's already caught up to your shoulders pretty much. Your arm's already caught up to your shoulders pretty much. And we have that effect here. But we can just see how much more of that effect our big leaguer has when he was able to keep things separated, the upper and lower half, for longer. We can also see how much more out in front he's getting at release. Right? You guys are all very tall at this point in time still. It's tough to throw this ball down the mound with power if we're tall at release. What we're going to notice is a lot of your guys' balls, as they come out of your hand, are going up. So we'll watch here. We'll go like a straightish line. You can see how that ball is going up out of your hand. And it's tough with the top guys because as soon as I draw my cursor down, that gets in the way. But if we just draw a dot here where that ball is, and you see it's fighting not to go up. It's trying to stay as even as it can with the top of our video frame there. And then over here on our left side on the top, we watch that ball. Same thing. It's fighting to not go up and stay even. We need this ball to be accelerating down because we're releasing this ball above our head way up here, and the strike zone is way down here. And we only got so many feet to be able to get it to go down in. What we're also going to notice is how much our big leaguer's belt buckle is going to that target right now. We got good belt buckle going to the target over here, but we kind of have, like we talked about, that big open foot there. Belt buckle is trying to go there, but we can see the difference in your foot and our big leaguer's foot. Right? That angle of it compared to your angle. We need to get ourselves driving us forward, and that'll drive the back hip forward. And when the back hip goes forward, the belt buckle will be to the target more. Same thing over here. Yours is in that angle, but his is turned over more in rotation. Yours is just kind of straight away. Yours will get into rotation, but not till there, there, there. It's just a little late. It's a little late because your shoulders are a little early. Things are just out of time, out of sync with the timing. So the biggest thing for you guys from what we're seeing here is we gotta get just a little bit more aggressive with our back leg. We just gotta learn how to drive off of it some more, which just come with some good easy drills. But the most important thing is that you guys' arms are in good positions in terms of their angles. Now it's just a matter of making sure that our shoulders don't open up early so that those good arm positions can be aggressive and explosive all the way through the throwing zone. You guys all do a pretty darn good job of being firm on your front legs as you're throwing, right? Getting onto a firm front side to be able to rotate around. You guys all do a pretty darn good job of that. We do a good job of rotating through release, right? So there's a lot of things that you guys do good from this side perspective. We just need to get more aggressive with our lower body, more specifically with our back leg. So we need to learn how to create momentum and energy out of our back leg. All right, we're going to be discussing the mechanics from a front view, and we're just going to concern ourselves with our path or the flow down the mound. So we already got these videos to the top of these guys' leg lifts. Obviously, every pitcher comes down the mound at different rates, different speeds. However, to make these guys flow together, I have changed up their speeds to fit. So what we're going to see is that we got Jerry Jones over here getting that front leg fully extended and really sitting into his delivery. We got Greinke, who's got his knee, which is going to be further back towards second base than his foot is. He's really taking this front knee and kind of curling it back so that his front hip stays closed. And Kirby is going like Jones here with his front leg, but he's keeping it in a more bent position rather than kicking it straight out like Jones. But what we do notice is no matter how these guys load into their back hips, getting down into their legs, engaging their lower halves, what do we notice? We notice where the glove is going. And that's to help them be able to see over their front shoulder. They want to be looking down the barrel of their shoulder. Because the longer we can be looking here over this shoulder as we proceed down the mound, obviously we've gotten back to center, but look, we're still looking right over that shoulder. Still looking right over that shoulder. Still looking right over that front shoulder. The longer we can do that into our moment of foot strike, bam, bam, we can see front shoulder, and our head is still trying to fight to keep that our front shoulder is still fighting to stay above our chin. The front shoulder is still fighting to stay in above the chin. The front shoulder is still fighting to stay in above the chin. And when we do that, we can see that the back hip now has been able to come through, exposing the belt buckle to the batter, to our catcher, but preventing, because that front shoulder's fought to stay in so that we continue to look over it. Look what that's done with our chest. It's kept it squared up, squared up, squared up, as that lower half has been able to fire, and there lies our upper lower half separation that we're trying to achieve. And now here comes the most important part. Getting into this position is key for both our power production, our ability to throw the baseball with our body, thus reducing the amount of stress that's going on through our arm during that delivery, and helping ensure, this wasn't the straightest line here, helping ensure our energy continues to flow to the catcher. All right, we can see that head staying there, that head staying there. Kirby's fighting to keep it in there. And you can see he's fighting to keep it in there because it did not go more out there. So we're rotating that back shoulder. We're rotating that back shoulder forward. 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 So that way all of our power can be flung through those fingers, out through that ball, forward. If we watch that again without any interruption, into foot strike, out of foot strike. Everything staying in line with our target. And then noticing as they're getting into release, where are those chin and chests going? To the target. To the target. The angle of our trunk, this mass from our shoulders through our waist, our trunk right now is upright. It's above our hips. In relation to the ground, it's in a 90-degree angle. As we get into release, those trunks in relation to the ground are no longer up here trying to throw the baseball. Instead, in relation to the ground, these trunks of these elite throwers of the baseball, both in terms of command, the best to ever do it, in terms of longevity and success, one of the best to do it, and an upcomer with elite velocity and potential to be an all-star. Every one of their trunks at release went from being up here at foot strike to out here at release, bringing that energy down the mound, but most importantly, towards our target. And that's something that we're able to see even easier and more clearly in the side view videos. All right, so if we kind of take this back once more and we see these arm slots, we'd say, boom. Oops, let me draw a better line than that. Right, we're at a high 3/4, 3/4. We are in a same thing, 3/4, high 3/4. Same thing here, right? So these are some of your most common arm slots are the 3/4 to high 3/4 arm slot. And then what we'll look at next here are some guys that are in that lower 3/4 tier. So we'll let, we got Luis Hill, Kyle Harrison, and Carl Crawford. Right, so the same thing, moment of that foot strike, we can see that they're still fighting to keep that front shoulder in, keep that front shoulder in, fighting to keep that front shoulder in, and then coming to release and through, we can see how those heads are fighting to stay in. Luis Hill a little bit outside, but we can see through release, bam, it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there. Now it's out, which is no big deal. It's already stable for long enough post-release, bam, that he could do a cartwheel over here if he wanted to after. So fighting to keep that front shoulder in, and by doing that, the shoulders have stayed squared up and with a good lower half timing and pattern sequencing. We got the back hip to have come forward, the back hip to have come forward, exposing that belt buckle to the batter, creating that upper and lower half separation that we're trying to seek in order to achieve higher velocities and minimize the stress that's put on our arm during these high intense and continuous throws. If we then take these guys into their moment of release, we got that same concept that we did earlier, and we can see here's our low 3/4, even getting closer, some would say, to even true sidearm. We have that low 3/4, and we got that 3/4 to low 3/4. But what we can notice is all the same with those different arm slots, but the most common arm slots in our game. All these guys are fitting the same bill in their own unique ways, but these important key points are all very much getting checked off by each, no matter what. And now that we've been able to learn the pitching delivery from that front point of view, that front perspective, I got your guys' front views back up here so we can compare and contrast each other and have a better understanding of what those differences look like from those big leaguers to where we are. All right, so we got you guys' front views here now. So after hearing the big league talk from the front perspective, you'll have a better idea of what to be looking for in your delivery from the front view as we compare the three of you guys here together. So again, everyone's video is synced up to that moment of our front foot getting into the ground. So some of our leg lifts start before others, some of our start after others. All right, so here we are at foot strike, and like we were just talking about, our shoulders are opening up early, and early is in relation to when this front foot gets into the ground. Okay, so if we watch how long it takes or how quickly it may take your foot to get firmly into the ground, and just notice that we can't throw until it gets all the way in the ground. That's not just the heel, that's not just the inside of the foot, that's my entire foot in the ground. So the sooner that my full foot can get into the ground and be stuck in the ground, the more soon I can be ready to throw. This upper body position right here is ideal for a very high power thrower if your front foot was already in the ground right now. But what we're going to notice is by the time your front foot does get all the way into the ground, how that shoulder began to rotate around. Great spot to throw super, super hard from, but we're not ready to throw because the front foot's not in the ground yet. Now we're throwing from this position. Okay, we go back to here. This would be a great upper body position to throw from, but we can see that front foot's not in the ground yet, which means this is going to keep doing some stuff, opening up, which then by the time this front foot gets into the ground, it's starting to open up. And now we're going heel first, outside part of the foot. Then we roll to the inside part of the foot. And if we even zoom in, you may say, hey, you're cheating me. You're going too long. No, watch. That foot keeps moving all this time. Boom. It's not till about right there that it stops moving, and you can see how far your shoulders have already rotated. So we're losing so much power, putting so much extra stress, and asking so much of our ability to throw strikes when our body is trying to throw the ball from this position here. So we really got to learn how to angle our foot, how to angle our ankle, so that our foot is dangling in the correct angle with the mound angle, so that way we're landing flush and flat and not taking so long for our whole foot to get into the ground. So that way, hopefully, we can complete all that while the shoulders are still here, closed. Now come over here. And we can see that you're a guy whose front leg stays closed nice and long and good, but then it doesn't open. Then it doesn't rotate. It just tries to open. Meaning instead of this foot rotating and putting itself down here, or putting itself down here, or anywhere in between there, it's instead not going to rotate, and it's going to open up. Right? So now we're stuck with the inside part of your foot hitting the ground first, this knee blocking your hips from being able to come forward, and we can see your belt buckle is still facing third base dugout. Then your foot rolls over to the outside part, rolls over, and as it's rolling over, your shoulders can't stay closed anymore, and they start to rotate. Boom. So now you're stuck in this position of having less rotational ability to be able to throw with, because we can't throw until that foot gets firmly into the ground. That'd be like hitting and starting your shoulders as a right-handed hitter here and never loading them back before you swung. You just started them open and then you swung from there. You're not going to create much power. Same thing here with throwing. So all three of us are going to benefit greatly from front leg rotation drills. Right? And then after that, we got to learn how to keep these shoulders back as the delivery develops, because we need our shoulders to be in this type of alignment when your foot gets in the ground. This type of alignment when your foot gets in the ground. This type of alignment minus your glove sticking straight forward when the leg gets in the ground or foot gets all in the ground. So we can just see you guys are not doing enough with the front legs rotation quite yet. And because of that, combined with your front shoulders opening early, we're just throwing with much less power than we potentially could.